Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Chris Martin, real estate agent, investor, and coach, and we're about to get into one of my favorite ways to prospect for real estate business, circle prospecting. Dive into this and let me know if you have any questions. Let's get started. Let's go. How many of you guys are actively prospecting?
No.
You guys can be honest. There's no judgment in this room. This is a judgment-free zone, just like Planet Fitness. How many of you guys are actively prospecting? Okay. I want to see those people that are coming here, that hand go like through the ceiling, because that's something we have to do on a daily basis. And even those that were prospecting, it's like, how can we do it more efficiently? How can we do it better? So we all have room to improve in this. So it's good to see all you guys here. It's good to see you guys joining us online. Theana, Angela, or Deanna, what's going on? For those joining us online, just make sure you say what's up. If you guys have any questions, let me know. But today we're going to talk about prospecting, one of my favorite subjects, because it's the heartbeat of our business. Circle prospecting, I know I can define it. What do you guys define circle prospecting as? What do you think that is, circle prospecting? I look at circle prospecting as identifying a property and drawing a geographical circle around that property and pulling up other properties in the area. And that would be what I would consider circle prospecting.
Literally
Literally.
a circle.
Literally a
Okay,
circle.
got it.
I might have invented this term. I don't even know. But the beauty of that is how many people in their businesses would prefer kind of doing business in one set area or geographical location versus traveling to A, B, C, and D, right? So with circle prospecting, you can kind of build your business that way. And you can look at it to where would I really ideally love to do business? And that's something that is worth thinking about, especially if you're redeveloping your business, rebranding your business, or if you're just starting out. Because if you start to do business in certain areas, sometimes you get planted in that area. If you do an open house in Worcester and now you get Worcester buyers, and now you're kind of in that area, before you know it, 75% of your deals are in Worcester. So if you're going to identify an area, I would say you have to have ideally some ties attached to that area, whether you live in that area, whether it's a neighboring city or town, maybe you grew up in that area, maybe you work in that area, maybe your relatives live in that area, maybe you always wanted to live in that area. Whatever that is, you have to have some sort of ties to that area so you're knowledgeable about that area. But the thing that I love about circle prospecting, it's literally unlimited. Like you have unlimited. I'm not going to call these leads, because these people, are they raising their hand saying they want to buy a house? No. So this is really true cold prospecting. This is true cold prospecting. However, with that, the disadvantage of cold prospecting is just one disadvantage, basically. The disadvantage is that, what is it? You're going to get a ton of no's. Like there's high levels of rejection with this approach. The highest level of rejections in real estate. So if your mindset's not there, if you feel like you can't handle rejection just quite yet, then yeah, you might need to build up on your foundational mindset skills. But and we'll talk about that. But this here, once you get any one of these properties to identify themselves as they do want to sell, it instantly turns into the most valuable. I'll let you guys see my beautiful drawing online. It instantly turns into the most valuable piece, a valuable lead that you can get in real estate. It's more valuable than an online lead. It's more valuable than any lead that you can get, because it's a secret. Nobody else knows about it. And there's a couple of different things that can transpire from that. It could turn into a listing, which is what we're all here for, to try to get listings, or even better, it can turn into an acquisition. It can turn into a property that maybe you want to purchase as an investment, as an investor. So once you get these leads, they're super valuable. Just to touch on the discipline a little bit. So discipline, to me, and you probably heard this before, it's doing something that you don't really want to do and doing it anyway. I would add another layer to that and saying that it's doing it with a smile and doing it with enjoyment. So these calls, and you've heard me say this before, if you heard me talk anything about prospecting, at least how I carried out prospecting, I don't really enjoy making those cold calls, but it's just part of my job description. So I just chalk it up to saying this is what I have to do on a daily basis. I do it, and if I'm going to do it, I might as well have some fun doing it. So I'm tricking my brain in a way of like, all right, how can I have fun doing this? So have fun doing it, take those no's. And that's why you have to have these little rewards, which is why I always approach circle prospecting with contacts. My goal is to get contacts, not necessarily, yes, the end goal is to get listings and acquisitions or whatever that is. But if you're solely focused on that, you're not going to last because you're going to get more no's. So you might as well reward yourself with what you get most of, which is no's. Reward yourself with those no's because we all know those no's will lead to a decent conversation. So that's why when people say, we talk about metrics, I would very highly encourage you guys to base your metrics around the contacts that you make, not the phone calls, not the appointments. I mean, all those things need to be logged. However, it's all going to start with the contacts. So for me, I feel a decent amount of contacts on a daily basis, if you're making any type of phone calls, is somewhere between 15 to 20, depending on what your goals are. Because if you have a certain set of goals, then it's going to matter on how many phone calls you make. I would say 15 or 20 contacts is a healthy amount of contacts. Now, remember, 15 or 20 contacts could take you a couple of hours of calling to get 15 or 20 contacts. A contact to me that's considered someone who picks up the phone and you're able to get your spiel out. You're able to at least let them know why you're calling. Now, if they choose to hang up in your face after you say that, I'm gonna reward myself with a contact because I was able to get off what I wanted to say and clearly they weren't interested. Fine, I'm going to the next person and the next phone call, which they may not answer. You may get a voicemail, the number may be disconnected, it may be an incorrect number. And then 15 calls later, you get someone else that picks up and that's another contact. So
Do you not call back? Because I do.
What's that?
I always call back and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I think we got disconnected."
Yeah. I do that. And you know what? Like that right there is a great example of having fun while you're doing it. You need to kind of have fun
Yes.
while you're doing it. And it's like, and you'll be surprised. Like some people will answer that like, no, I actually hung up on you. Or some people may answer like, oh yeah, I got this. And they'll like act like they didn't do it.
Yeah.
So it's really funny to kind of like force people in uncomfortable situations, which I love doing all the time. Like I just love doing that. So thanks for mentioning that. So little things like that, like having fun along the way.
Look at your heart rate racing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit of an adrenaline rush. And I tell you, one of the most satisfying things is getting someone to pick up the phone who clearly doesn't want to talk to you. They're not in the state of talking to you, and the conversation starts off really bad. And then by the end of the call, you somehow capture them and you engage with them and you end that call. Even if it's not getting an appointment, you end that call feeling like, damn, I did a good job on that. Like I totally talked them off of the ledge. And sometimes that's literally what it is. You're like, wait a second, don't jump. Like, don't hang up, don't jump. And then you're working them to kind of like just engage with you. So there is a lot of satisfaction you can get besides the appointments. I always look at it as like baseball terminology. The grand slam is, hey, can you come over and list my house? That's rare. We don't need to have success. We can just get on base. We can get first base. We can get second base. We can get a triple, right? Or we can strike out. But we got to go out there and get some at-bats. This is the way to do it. So I love the idea of just knowing how can I have some fun with this along the way. Getting on the phone for an hour and a half to 2 hours may not sound like a lot for those people that haven't done it, but it's a marathon. Like 2 hours on the phone, just right there looking at your calls one after another. Your level of intensity is the same. All that energy is there. Every single call, one after another. You should be tired by the time that you get off of that call session, an hour and a half to 2 hours. And we have to figure out like what our capacity level is. I say an hour and a half to 2 hours. If you want to get on the phone for a half hour, and give that a go and be like, all right, I feel like maybe next time I can do 45 minutes. Maybe next time I could do an hour. You don't have to jump right into an hour and a half or 2 hours. An hour and a half or 2 hours, like that's my capacity. I'm already dwindling down at an hour and a half, to be quite honest. Like the next person who picks up the phone, I feel like I'm a little bit more irritable, right? Like I'm a little bit more like, what did you just say?
You keep the script sounding,
Because you are a professional. That's why. Because
difficult to keep that script
it is difficult, but that's why we're professionals. That's why we go into that. That's why you should be tired, because it's forced energy.
Yeah.
You're forcing yourself to sound that way. It's not natural. And that person needs to feel that energy on the other side. They're like, wow, like this person, like they just brightened up my day a little bit. This is just what I consider circle prospecting, identifying a house or a property, and then drawing a geographical location around it, and then pulling up these are all little houses too.
Any house that you want in a geographic area, you pull up a house. And
Yep. And then and we'll get into how you're getting these contacts, but you're basically identifying a house, doing a geographical location around it. So where do you live? Methuen, perfect. So you can type in 123 Laura Lane in Methuen, and then draw a geographical circle as large or as small as you want. Maybe you just want to be within a few blocks of that street. Maybe you want to actually do a bigger radius. There's certain pockets in cities and towns that, the east side, the west side, the south side, the whatever, you can focus on certain locations if you want.
Get out there and knock doors.
Yep, you can, exactly. Knocking doors and making phone calls. So definitely work on that mindset. Do what you have to do to get yourself in the zone before you get on this call session. Professional athletes warm up before they play. Super Bowl Sunday, they're going to be out on that field probably hours and hours before that game, right? They get out there in plain clothes. They go back, get the uniforms on, come back out there. We have to do the same thing when we're warming up. It's not, you asked the question, how do you stay on the phone for 2 hours? If we just go in our office, we put our bags down, we just got off the phone with our wife or our kids or whatever, and then we pick up the phone and start making phone calls. How good are you going to be? Right? Like, yeah, you can do it because we're professionals, but if you want to be at like peak performance, you need to you need to do some warm-ups before you do it. It doesn't matter if you know the script inside and out. Say it a couple times before you make those calls. Get yourself loose, right? Handle some of the objections that you know they're going to come up. Call me back in the spring. Call me back when it gets warmer. Call me back in March. Call me back in April. We will definitely hear those when we're making calls if we call today. Right?
What's your favorite thing to say? That's like everybody says that.
Yeah. So we always repeat and reprove, and we'll get into this full-blown objection handlers all throughout Cameron Coaching and on my YouTube channel. So if you want to just listen to like an hour long of how to handle objections, I would definitely go to objection handlers and how to handle those objections so you can get a little bit more thorough idea and understanding of it. But basically, we always repeat and approve an objection. So yeah, I get it. You want to wait to the spring. You don't want to move in the winter. I totally understand that. Would you still be interested in selling? Are you still interested in selling now? Like if everything kind of worked out for you, if you can move in the springtime, would you still want to sell? Yeah, if I can move in the spring, great. One of the greatest things is closing dates are just as negotiable as the price. Why don't I come out? We can at least start the game planning process and see if it makes sense to list now or wait to the spring. What day works better for you, Monday or Thursday, this time or this time? So we just want to be open to where we give them an out. Like, we don't want to be like, well, let me come over your house, so we're definitely listing your house now when you don't want to, right? Like that's the exact thing that they don't want to hear. So how can we deliver a message that eases their thoughts and still allows us to potentially get a listing? It's letting them know, like, this maybe what they don't know. I always let them know, like, if it makes sense now, great. If not, let's, but game planning is important. And like, that's logical to me. Like, even if they were to list in April, first, I want to call them out a little bit on their motivation. Like, do they really want to sell this property? And if they really want to sell this property, wouldn't it make sense to have a meeting now to game plan. Maybe there's some things they can do to the house to get ready for it. I can help you with that. Are you thinking about doing anything in the house? We're thinking about doing your bathroom over. Oh, but before you spend a dime, let me come over. I'll give you a price on what I think the value would be after you did it versus not doing it at all. That way you don't have to worry about putting money in and potentially not getting it back. Because how much are they going to spend on the bathroom? 10, 20,000? Who knows? Like, would it make sense for you to meet to give you that information so you don't have to waste your money? We have to be able to handle objections logically, right? And it has to make sense for that person. Also, another one is, I think that's a general idea. You could almost fit that into any type of conversation. But listing and selling now is perfect because they don't have to sell in the winter. We're already past that point, right? If we put their property if we meet with them today, they put their property on the market tomorrow. We have an open house this weekend. We accept an offer next week. That's already mid-February. It's not unreasonable to have a closing early April. So we're already in the spring. All right. Yeah, feel free to stop with any questions on any of that stuff. Sometimes I get so discouraged making these calls. Some people have said to me, why are all you real estate agents calling me for this, like the 15th phone call I receive? 15 is my lucky number, Angela.
Say that.
Ah,
That's what you say.
oh yeah,
Oh, lucky 15.
I know it. It's true. Like I would literally say that, like 15 is my lucky number.
Oh,
Cut the ice, it's kind of funny, makes me laugh, even if it doesn't make anyone else laugh. I chuckle at it. But yeah, 15 is my lucky number. And then go right into your script. This is you acknowledge what they're saying, and or even asking them, oh, what are some of those phone calls been like? You talk to anyone good? So just kind of like understanding their frustration in a way, but still making it lighthearted, possibly. And the truth is, like, a lot of those agents, like, I don't care like who called. Like, I don't necessarily have full faith that those agents were any good in their conversations. I could just be the agent that she needed to talk to or he needed to talk to. So yeah, I mean, understand that that's just going to happen. And the grand scheme of things, like the bigger picture is some people are nice and some people are not nice. Some people want to talk to you. Some people don't want to talk to you. Some people are going to hire you. Some people are not going to hire you. It's that black and white, like, most times. So it's not necessarily about forcing people on the phone. Like some people just have a barrier. And then once you break it, you're kind of in. Other people.
That's the fun part, I find, is figuring out how I could win someone over.
Yeah. And you'll get it. Like some people just hang up on you and you have no choice. And you're like, all right, well, that's what it is.
They could just be a grumpy person.
Could be a grumpy person. And
Don't let them grumpiness,
Yeah.
go on to you or whatever.
Yeah.
They have problems.
And the reality is, like, again, that's why that threshold's important, because if I'm within my threshold, I have empathy for that person. Like I feel bad for that person because I don't know what they're going through. They could have just got diagnosed with cancer the day before. You know what I mean? Someone could have died. Like, who knows? So if someone's pissed off, I feel bad for that person. However, if I'm outside of my threshold, then that's a different story. I'm like, oh man, I have no empathy for that person. I'm like, what did you just say? So know your threshold. All right, so we focus on geographical areas. We concentrate on specific neighborhoods. This is also going to help maximize, like, this 10 times your visibility and your branding in an area. So if you're calling, picture yourself calling this area of, let's just say, 300 houses, right? You're calling 300 houses, and now you get a listing and you have a for sale sign. And your for sale sign is right here. Look at that. Nice picture of you. You have a for sale sign here. You're calling these people. Now you call someone and you're like, oh yeah, this is Chris Martin. I'm a real estate agent in the neighborhood, just calling you about, oh yeah, I actually seen your sign. Seen your sign right there. Your sign, maybe they drive by it on their way home. You get a property sold in that area. You can also do just listed, sold calls. You can do open house invites. But what happens with a sign a lot is people see a sign and just their perception magnifies. That sign in their mind, just because they see it to work and back from work, that's 2 signs in the neighborhood, when actually it's just 1 sign. You do an open house and you put other signs in the neighborhood. Now you're like selling properties all over their neighborhood because your stuff is everywhere, even though your open house signs are only there temporarily. And don't forget you're calling and you're doing, if you're door knocking, you have the opportunity to do mailers as well. I would probably start with the free stuff, like the door knocking and the cold calls if you don't have much of a budget. But if you're also mailing quarterly those same 300, 400, 500 houses, however they are, now you just have this sort of local celebrity status within this area. So it maximizes your exposure in an area. It's unlimited amount of homeowners to contact. We talked about that. So there's 3 different approaches, mainly when you're talking about circle prospecting. There's the real estate agent approach. There's the you have an active buyer approach, and there's the you are the buyer approach. So I look at those as sort of the 3 different approaches, and there's all different types of stuff you can do within those approaches. And there's also the hard sell and the soft sell. What are those differences? What's a hard sell versus a soft sell? What is that? What does that mean when I say hard sell? If you're hard selling something. Yeah.
Yeah, you're trying to close them in that conversation.
Yep. Yeah. So a hard sell is it's that used car salesman, right? And it's grab the steering wheel. How does that feel, buddy? Does that feel pretty good? Right? That's the hard sell. You guys picture that? How many of you guys have you guys ever been to a timeshare sell?
Yes.
That is the definition of a hard sell. Like if you want to
Who signed the dotted line when she went?
You gotta get.
I'm now the proud owner.
Oh, listen, you're not leaving there by saying no once. You have to say no like 50 times. But if you guys never been, has anyone not been to a timeshare pitch? Go to one. Like even if it's for the sake of just like that experience of seeing someone sell and not allowing you to leave. Like you literally feel like a prisoner. The first time I went to one, I got through and I said no. And then like someone else came and I had to get through him. And then someone else I was like, damn, how many people do I have to get through before I get out of here? But that's a hard sell. A soft sell is something more like, I guess like the department store, buying a pair of shoes. Hey, if there's anything I can help you with, let me know. You know, it's kind of a little bit more casual. It's not so aggressive. So those 2 approaches apply when you're making calls, and it's not going to be as extreme as a timeshare. But if you are calling and you want yourself to be the buyer, it is very direct. It's, hey, you know, I'm actually a real estate agent, but I'm calling you as a buyer today. I'm looking to buy a home in the neighborhood. Your property was one of the ones I identified. Would you be open to an offer if I came by and gave you one? It's very direct. It's very straightforward versus calling maybe in a circle prospecting approach. Maybe you're just looking to establish branding in the area and you just want to reach out to someone and say, hey, my name's Chris. I'm a local real estate agent. I'm actually just calling you today to be a resource for you and your family. If you guys ever need any real estate needs, is it okay if I grab your email address and send you some stuff periodically or send you a couple things through the mail? It's kind of an easy yes. It's like, all right, yeah, get you off the phone. Yeah, so it's a soft sell. So this is all depending on like your personality too. Like if you feel like, you know what, I just don't have, it's not really genuine for me to hard sell, or if, you know, I don't really, you know, if I'm calling someone, I actually do want to ask them a straight direct question. Understand which one of those approaches works best for you, the hard sell versus a soft sell. Open house invite, an example of a soft sell, right? You're calling someone geographically. Maybe you have this open house right here this Sunday, whether it's your open house or you're doing it for the company or you're doing it for another agent. You can call all those people and invite them to the open house. It's a very soft sell. Hey, that soft sell has to be, it still has to be intriguing. It still has to be inspiring. Like it still has to hit some of the emotions. Like if you're calling, hey, I have an open house this Sunday. It's Saturday. If you want to come by, we'll be there. You know, it has to be like a little bit more than that, right?
Yeah.
Enthusiastic. So put on your best enthusiastic hat. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing an open house, like you have to do some back end prospecting. You have to do some back end prospecting. Like if you get an open house and you're only going there to show up and waiting for an unrepresented buyer, you're missing so many different aspects. Like, what are the chances of an unrepresented buyer coming through? Yes, you could get an unrepresented buyer. Sometimes you may not. And if you don't get an unrepresented buyer, is that it? You just walking out and that's your day? What if you're doing some prospecting in advance? You can do a lead up. You could do, if you know you're doing an open house on Sunday, you can maybe do some calling during the week. You could show up a couple hours before the open house. You could show up the day before the open house. However you want to do that. You could do some online marketing, but you have to do some stuff to couple it with that open house. It allows you access to that neighborhood, right? It's like, it's a legitimate reason why you're there. It's like, hey, I'm doing an open house right down the street on 52 Washington. I don't know if you saw the sign, but I'd love to have you come out. Another way to kind of add a little flair to it is have a neighborhood, segment of that open house. Maybe open up a half hour early for neighbors. Not to say you have to do that. It's just another way to kind of give them like VIP access, make them feel special. Hey, I'm just allowing neighbors to come through 15 minutes early. You guys get first crack at it in case you know anyone that wants to move in the area, or in case you just want to compare your house to theirs. Yeah, if you have full access to the property, like I just want people in. Like I don't care if that person's not a legitimate candidate to purchase that property, because you never know. They may know someone. A lot of homeowners in the area, they want to pick their neighbor. They want to, this would be perfect for whoever. So as long as you because I know sometimes it's a concern with homeowners, not renovated property, but somehow I just don't want anyone in my property. Sometimes you hear that. It's just like, we never know where a buyer's going to come from. Sometimes the neighbors are the best salesmen on the neighborhood. They're selling the neighborhood better than anyone. So getting them in and letting them know, like, hey, like, because if you knock on someone's house and invite them to an open house, they may think I'm not in the market. Well, most people are nosy and want to see they want to see a house. So if you're like, hey, like you should come check it out, see what we've done to it, or see how this house stacks up against yours. It's their stock. Like everyone's in the stock market who owns a property. Like that property sells, that's impacting their stock. So they should want to know about it, which is why just listed and just sold calls are just as important. So you have you have 4 opportunities to kind of contact these people if you have a listing in that area or you're hosting an open house. You can do a coming soon if you know a property's coming on the market. That same door knocking approach or phone calls, letting them know, hey, I just want to I want you to be the first to know I have a property coming on the market. I didn't even put the sign up yet. And I just wanted to know if you were interested in letting me, I'll tell you about it. And just tell them about the property. Soft sell, you're not even selling anything. You're just giving them information. Giving them information before they can get it on their own is important, because once it goes on the market, where can they go to get the information? Right on their phone. They can just look up the address and, I don't need this person. I already know what it's listed for. Just sold is awesome because you can let them know the price before it even hits Zillow. If you wanted to, you can reach out to them and let them know the price that the property sold for. So you have coming soon, you have just listed, you have open house, and you have just sold. You have 4 different sort of opportunities to reach out to people in the neighborhood. So another soft sell approach is CMA, offering CMAs to people, home evaluations, and letting them know that's the reason for your call. Hey, I'm not sure when's the last time you got a price analysis on your property. I'd be happy to come out and give you one at no cost, no pressure, no obligation. You don't have to list your property with me. I'd love to come out and just put a face to the voice and give you a CMA, and you could do what you want with it. So having those CMA appointments for someone, and the thought is if someone's interested, of course, in understanding the value of their house, then why is that? Are they thinking about maybe selling at some point? So it's just a nice way to get in there and do some of those appointments. So CMAs, those appointments are there for you. So you can kind of go through these different approaches and distinguish which one of these is going to be right for me. Like, what's my ultimate goal here? If your ultimate goal is, I want to do a fix and flip. Well, if you're looking to do a fix and flip, then maybe you're the buyer and that's your approach. Or maybe you have a buyer, which is Ocean City Development. Like you can have that conversation. So if you're the buyer, I kind of went through that script earlier on, hey, I'm a real estate agent, but I'm also calling you as a buyer today, or I'm calling you because I have a buyer today that's interested in your house and willing to put an offer on the table for you. Is that something that you'd be interested in seeing or talking about? And I have a buyer. Once you get that appointment on the schedule, you can bring out one of the acquisitions reps from Ocean City Development to accompany you on that appointment as the buyer, as the person that's making the offer, and lead that appointment with the acquisition. You have an active buyer. So you have an active buyer is really cool because, I mean, you being a buyer is great. Having an active buyer is a great value add for your prospective buyer. So if you're meeting with someone and they just missed out on a house over here within this circle, or you created, now if you don't have a circle, maybe that becomes this. This is the house they missed out on. Now you're drawing a circle around that, and you're actually reaching out to neighbors proactively, letting them know that your client sadly missed out on a property within the area, and they would love to come by and check out your house because your house is actually even better than the one they missed out on. And I'd be so excited to bring them through. Would you be open for that? So you can have that conversation. How bad, like if you're looking to buy a house, if you want to do a fix and flip this year, like how bad do you want to do it? Like, are you literally willing to bang on doors? Are you looking at, like I am, like, I remember the first I wanted to buy a 3-family in Lynn. I knew I wanted to buy a 3-family. I wanted to be a flat top triple decker. That's a property I wanted. I pulled up all of the properties in Lynn that were flat top triple deckers, all of them, every single one of them. And I called all of them, or I knocked on their doors. That's what I did. And it led me to 2 owners that wanted to sell to me. So how bad do you want it? Like, are you willing to do that? Like, to me, like, I just said, yes, I'm willing to do it, because it doesn't cost you any money to do it. It just costs you time. So Mojo is probably the most common one for neighborhood searches. There are probably a few others out there. But Mojo to me was the one that I used for neighborhood searches specifically. And it allows you to do exactly this. You type in an address and then you literally draw a geographical map around that, and it'll populate the numbers for all these properties for you and create a list. So you can title this list. This could be the Methuen Highlands list. And you create this list and it will be one list. So you can always go back to that. You could create another list. Maybe you do Methuen South Side. And now you can kind of toggle back on your phone calls. And this is another way to kind of keep yourself excited about making phone calls. Maybe you don't spend the whole 2 hours on your Methuen list. Maybe you're like, all right, I'm going to spend a half hour here. Then I'm going to jump to my Peabody list and I'm going to do Peabody's. And maybe you switch it up to where, you know what, now I'm going to do with the approaches, I'm going to actually look for my buyers that are looking to buy a house in Peabody. Maybe you're looking to buy in Methuen. So you can kind of switch up the approaches so they're a little different and varied. That way it's not the same exact conversation for those 2 hours. That's how I handled it, again, to try to break it up and give myself some sanity while I was making these phone calls. I remember knocking on someone's door and he's like, I can't believe, like, you know what? I'm not looking to sell my house, but when I am, I'm hiring you because you knocked on my door. I can't believe you're out here doing this. He's like, I'm in sales. He's like, I love you out here doing this stuff. And ended up listing his house maybe 3 or 4 years later for $700,000. And he bought another house for close to $1 million. And I probably made like $30,000 or $40,000 on that one single door knock and having that conversation. So for all those people that are on those stupid community pages, I don't give a shit about them. I really don't. I'm out for me. I'm out for me and my goals at the end of the day. Like if someone wants to, like, once I get to that door, I'll know that's them. All right, thank you. Sorry to bother you. On to the next one.
Want some
Knock, knock.
cookies?
Because my goals and are just too important. It's all about the mindset thing. Like it's too important. If you're out there and you have the mentality that I am going to purchase a property this year, then nothing should stand in your way. If you guys have not already tried Circle Prospecting, go ahead and try it. Give it a shot and see what your
what you're feeling when you're doing it, especially if you've given it some thought already. Go out there and give it a try. Hopefully this video has helped you out and maybe building up some courage to do it, answering some of the questions that you've had. And if you have any other questions, drop them in the comment section below. I have a lot of new content, a whole recreation of stuff coming on with a new flavor, and I'm excited to share that with you guys. So pay attention to the channel, watch some other stuff, and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, peace.